Hello everybody and welcome back to F1 2022 with Cow Racing. And if you're new to the channel and you don't know what Cow Racing's for, it's Cultured on Wheels, because I'm Cultured Left Foot and this is the Let's Play channel. So in the background we're just going to be quickly checking our engine components before diving in to look at some potential research and development and see how our departments are getting on. As we look at the constructor standings very quickly, you can see we're there in the best of the rest. Basically, we've put Cow Racing as, at the moment, sitting behind Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes, which isn't too bad at all. Picking our activities for the weekend as well, just to make sure we fill as much of that space as possible before the Australian Grand Prix, which is a Grand Prix I'm looking forward to be honest. I'm actually quite excited about the Australian Grand Prix. It's more of a racing track. It's a bit similar to sort of Bahrain. Very excited by that. I can put the foot down, hopefully have a good session of qualifying, and in the race score some good points again. But before that, we have to see if we can get our research and development completed. Come on, we've got to see what upgrades we can put on the car, what we can do to get into that. And there we go. But we have also admin again. We did well in the last race, which means in this race we up the difficulty again, and we increase that difficulty now another 10 points, which is going to be interesting, and see how that makes it available in Australia. But you can see we upgrade our quality control department. We get our upgrades completed. We get our weekly resources, we get our costs in, we get our money done, which is lovely. And as you can see, we've got a fair bit of things happening here. So we got upgrades complete. We get a supplier upgrade, which is great, from the engine manufacturer as well, which is superb. And then we can just go and have a look around what we've done here. And all these improvements are helping the car get quicker, move faster, and progress us up the leaderboard, hopefully. And so with that said, then we get into the Australian Grand Prix, we complete practice and unlock all of the development boosts, which is absolutely lovely. You can see we're getting lots of discount on the components for the upgrades of the car, which is absolutely amazing. Enzo Fittipaldi doing a pretty decent job in practice, not too bad, but most of the development boosts and the resource points coming from our side after putting in some pretty solid laps in Australia, something that I'm very, very excited and happy about. And with that, then we dive into qualifying one, starting our first flying lap of the session. And as I said, Australia is a track I really enjoy racing around, especially in qualifying, with a clear track, no one around you. You can really put the foot down, make sure you drop down the gears correctly. Some tight corners, some very fast corners. It's a really, really nice track, and obviously one that's relatively close to our home race, which will be Singapore this year. Australia, Japan and Singapore, the three in the sort of Australasian APAC region that we're looking forward to racing this year. Singapore I'm very excited about, because I'm actually going to the Singapore Grand Prix again this year. My brother's coming over for it. It's going to be absolutely epic. I can't wait to do that one. But as you can see, we are flying down this Australian track at the moment, up into 8th gear already, coming down the high-speed corner. You drop down the gears really quickly to get into this tight left and right-hander, cut the curb a little bit, and then straight back on the power again until you get into a tight right-hander, which is coming up in a second. Hard on the brakes as you see that 50-metre sort of braking mark. Come round the corner, and this is going to be the last few corners of the lap. And where can we put ourselves in Q1? It feels like a good lap. Max Verstappen does a 1:23 to go top of the leaderboard after the first sort of stint in Q1. We take the last corner a little bit too wide, just hit the curb on the way out, and we are going to set a 1:24 something, a 1:24.3, which puts us second. But as we get to the end of qualifying, you'll see that we only just about hang on to get through to Q2, finishing P15, and Enzo Fittipaldi disappointing down in P19. And to give you a little bit of suspense, we've done Q2 and Q3 in stealth mode, so you don't know where we're starting.
Line the track here in Albert Park. Welcome to Melbourne, and the roar from the crowd can only mean one thing. It's race day. The Melbourne circuit is certainly one that needs to be taken seriously. It's a combination of slippery surfaces and difficult corners, making it a very tricky track when it comes to overtaking. Drivers find it hard to pass and will need to take full advantage of those DRS zones if they want to have any hope of breaking through. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Russell, Elvis, Valtteri Bottas, and Perez, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Hamilton, and Carlos Sainz, Ocon, Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, and Magnussen, Vettel, Joe, Mick Schumacher, and Daniel Ricciardo, Fittipaldi, Albon, Stroll, and Nicholas Latifi. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It'll keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
P4 in Q2 and Q3, we absolutely came alive and it was incredible. We got the best out of the car. We were flying down those straights in the fast corners. It was unbelievable. But qualifying is one thing and the race is another. We're going in to sort our strategy out and we go onto the medium tyres to start with. We're going to sort of go off-piste a bit here. We think most other cars and drivers will be starting on the softs, so we're going to try and do something different to give us a little bit of an advantage. And as you can see, just playing around with how long we want to go on these mediums for. I think the peak will probably be around about 8 or 9 laps, and then get this bosh the softs as hard as we can coming out of that pit lane to try and make up the positions that we may lose with a slightly later pit stop.
Here we go then, the formation lap is underway here in Australia. The atmosphere around the circuit is electric and the crowd are hoping for an exciting race from the drivers today. So as all the cars reform the grids, the drivers will be hoping to get a strong start. They'll want to earn some valuable points from today's race, with final communications being done with their race engineers, ensuring the planned strategies are all in place.
So as the final cars make their way to the back of the grid, the formation lap is complete and we need to make sure that we are on it for the Australian Grand Prix. And here we go then, looking for 5 red lights, and they're being held for a long time and they're away. We get a sort of decent start. Hamilton absolutely flying up there. Oh no, Hamilton's behind us, sorry. It's Russell absolutely flying. Verstappen and Leclerc battling it out at the top. You can see us there holding our position, trying to hold off Perez behind us. We just cut across the curb, keeping our spot. And at the moment, there's already a train forming behind us where we haven't quite kept up with that Mercedes of George Russell. And Perez dives down the inside early on and he gets ahead of us. And now there's a bit of a battle forming behind us between, I think that is, Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, I'm going to say, behind us there. But as we turn, we have a little bit of a wobble coming out of that corner. We're still trying to chase down Perez, we've got in front of us. You can see Carlos Sainz right on our tail, Lando Norris behind him. And as we fly around this first lap of Australia, it is already getting very hot under here. And there's Carlos Sainz trying to make a move early on, and he's got the inside track on this first lap. He's got a faster car in that Ferrari, but we just about hold him off. And, well, it's going to be a lot of defensive driving, it seems like, as we automatically get down that battery, dump the battery onto this far straight, try and remember to turn it off before the corner, come into this tight right-hander again. We'll take it pretty well, trying to chase down Sergio Perez whilst holding off a Ferrari behind us. Is going to be very, very hard work. It's like attack is the best form of defence, right? We've got to go and try and get that place off Perez as best we can. I'm not thinking we're going to be able to. We're not as quick as the Red Bull. But as long as we can keep our pace up that keeps Sainz behind us, we'll be very happy. And that could be the commentator's curse, because it looks like Sainz is going to get us on this straight as we're going into turn 1. And he's just kept it really a bit of contact on our front tyres. And again, we just get our elbows out and hold him off. And now it's going to be 3 wide, is it, into the last corner? No, we've managed to pull away, although we're very early on the brakes. A slight lock up from the front left, and it's 3 wide. Sainz, Norris and us all having a battle at turn 3. As we go round into it, we just about hold off Norris. But Sainz is flying off into the distance, and that is tough. Yeah, they're all on the soft tyres. They're going to have quicker pace than us, a slightly more grip into the corners. But we probably could have done that corner into turn 1 and turn 2 a little bit better. And now Sainz already over a second ahead of us out of DRS range, but Norris hanging on to 0.6 seconds behind us. So when DRS opens, Lando Norris is going to be hot on our tail. We go a little bit wide in that corner, come across, cutting across the curb again, still trying to chase down Carlos Sainz. But I think this is a race against Sainz we're not really going to be a part of, to be honest. I imagine as he gets onto the straights, he's just going to absolutely annihilate us in the with his top speed because of that Ferrari engine. We picked an engine at the beginning of the season that would give us a bit more durability, meaning we finish races. We don't want to DNF from races. We want to just complete as many races as possible, as cleanly as possible, and get as many points in this first season as we can, as DRS is enabled. But we have pulled 1.8 seconds ahead of Norris with that last little bit of that lap. But we look back at Fittipaldi, our teammate, who is stuck in a lot of traffic and really is struggling to get pace out of this car. At the halfway point, we have to review our second driver and see if we think we want to keep him around. But you can see that Haas in front of him just pulling away. Like, he's offering no sort of recovery pace into that car. And even in the corners where we can make up some time, Fittipaldi really seems to struggle in creating that gap, or shortening that gap to the Haas in front of him. And yeah, it's really not good driving from him. But we jump forward to lap 5 as some of the leaders come into pit, putting us up into 6th position. Yuki Tsunoda well, we're already in 6th position, but the people behind us came into pit. So Yuki Tsunoda and Esteban Ocon jump up into 7th and 8th, as we're still trying to chase down Carlos Sainz and still haven't got into his DRS range. And that is something I feel like the next improvements in the car, I think we're going to have to go for a bit more of the powertrain, try and get a bit more power into the car, a bit more acceleration, a bit of a higher top speed. Maybe doing it through ERS would make more sense, but I still feel like here you can see how quickly Sainz pulls away from us on this straight with that Ferrari power unit, and we need to keep that going. We need to keep up our top speeds, really push it to the limit, because we're dropping all of our battery here now, down to 0% battery, which means we're going to have to use the next few lengths to recharge it and try and just use it. Oh, we take a huge corner cut there. Try and use the battery to our advantage, charge it up and try not to dump it too much to catch up with Sainz. Maybe we just let Sainz go. Maybe we think this isn't our race. Ferrari isn't our battle. Our battle is with the other midfield teams, the Alpines, the Aston Martins, your AlphaTauris and people like that. Maybe the Haas as well would be included in that battle because they're powered by the Ferrari power unit. But we just need to keep this going and keep working hard, as Russell comes into the pit ahead of us. So we're going to get a position there. Verstappen's in as well, going onto the medium tyres. You can just see Leclerc coming out. We're going to beat Leclerc out, and we go in to P3 right now. Although we're a pit stop behind a couple of the people behind us, we are in to 3rd position in the Australian Grand Prix, and everyone's going on the medium tyres. We're going to be finishing on the soft tyres, which should in theory be quicker and offer a bit more grip once they're up to temperature. But yeah, we just need to keep our focus now. We know there's a lot of space between us and Carlos Sainz in front, as you can see, and we just need to make sure that Leclerc and Verstappen don't have a very good outlap on those new tyres. They're going to be a bit cold. They're not going to catch us on this lap, I doubt, unless we have a monumental mess up. But at the moment, I'm quite happy with how the Australian Grand Prix is going, as again we're starting to get the hang of where we can cut corners and where we can't, which is always useful to increase a bit of time. But at the moment, Leclerc over a second behind us, Sainz 3 seconds ahead of us, nearly 4 seconds ahead of us, Perez way out in front by 12 seconds, which is absolutely incredible given that he only overtook us on the first lap, starting behind us, and is now in. But he's also dived into the pits Is Carlos Sainz going to go into the pits as well? He is in the pits. We're not coming in yet. I think we're going to be leading a race for the first time ever in this career mode, and we are. It's on lap 8, and Dave Nichols is leading the Australian Grand Prix, although Charles Leclerc has just put in one hell of a lap behind us and is now within a second, and you can see him in the rear view mirror trying to put us under a bit of pressure. We managed to just put a bit of space in between us, but I'm just well excited that we are leading the Australian Grand Prix. Yeah, we haven't pitted yet. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Let's just enjoy the moment of being the lead driver in a Formula 1 World Championship race. This is absolutely... Can we do it for a lap? That would be absolutely amazing, wouldn't it? If we can keep first position for a whole lap in the Australian Grand Prix. We've only got a few more corners to go, although look at Leclerc in our rear view mirror, putting that foot down, really going hard for it. We try to drop the battery to make sure we keep the lead, but you can see Charles Leclerc, that Ferrari power unit, is just so much quicker than us. And as we come through, we've got the inside on the first corner, we cut him off on the second corner, and we keep the lead at the moment, although it looks like there's going to be extra power from both of these cars on their fresh tyres. Verstappen with the DRS, and we just let Leclerc go. We lock up a little bit on the back left so we don't hit Verstappen, but that isn't our battle, right? That isn't our battle. Taking on Leclerc and Verstappen is not our battle for today. So we didn't have it for a whole lap, but we had it for the majority of a lap, which is absolutely brilliant. And then we dive into the pits.
Out in the lane and ready to perform their magic on the car. They're going to be aiming to achieve the fastest pit stop time possible.
So with the pit stop done, we're coming out, and look at that, we've got a bit of an engine issue there. It's gone slightly yellowy orange, and we lock up coming out of the pits, and that gives Valtteri Bottas a chance to get ahead of us. And is the strategy now going to fail us? And there's a yellow flag being waved behind us. I wonder if that was just because of us with that little lockup that took us slightly off the track. But yeah, it's going to be awkward with that little lockup. We're now chasing Valtteri Bottas, I think, for 6th position, 6th or 7th. And the strategy may have been wrong. Given that we started 4th, we're after the first lap in 5th because we lost out to Perez in the Red Bull. But further behind us, talking about losing out, Lewis Hamilton is really struggling in this Grand Prix. Can't get past the Aston Martin, stuck behind the Haas. He's going for a move on the Aston Martin now, but I think Lewis Hamilton is down in like 9th position, something like that. Or there's a bit of contact there with the Aston Martin. But Lewis Hamilton forces his way through, and he's got a lot of traffic to get through. And that is really disappointing for the, well, 9-time world champion, maybe even more than that. And he's coming into the pits, which means he's probably picked up a bit of damage with that contact with the Aston Martin. And his race, well, is going to be completely done, I think. So I would imagine he's already changed once in this race and gone onto the soft to mediums and now going back to softs. But we catch up with us on lap 9, going ahead as we just go slightly off the track, still trying to reel in Bottas with Ocon behind us. Ocon's 4 or 5 seconds behind us now. We don't really have much to worry about from him. Our aim is to catch Bottas, try and get that 6th place back. And look, on lap 11, we're within a second. We've been putting in some good laps, we've jumped forward a couple, and we have Bottas in our sights. And can we make something stick? 4 laps or 3.5 laps to go in the Australian Grand Prix. Ocon, Alonso behind us are long gone as we're coming up to try and take Bottas on. And into the slow right-hander. We actually dropped down to 2nd to try and give us a good acceleration out of it, and it works for this first bit. We go a little bit too much onto the grass, go wide out of the exit, but Bottas looks to be a little bit slow through these corners. Is this the strategy coming into play with us going onto the softs, allowing us to actually have a little bit more grip and a faster tyre? So on these straights, if we dump the battery, get the DRS open, we are slowly catching him up. As you can see, we just got to make sure we make it round these corners well. We are following. He dips a tyre into the dirt, and we're really closing down on Valtteri Bottas. Can we make a move on this lap? We're not going to go for the dive bomb into the tight right-hander of turn 2. We're going to come up into turn 3. We actually take it a little bit narrower to try and get our power down a bit quicker. But Bottas is keeping that gap between us. But we are just about to get into another DRS zone soon. And as you can see, we are absolutely gunning it towards Valtteri Bottas now. And we've had a really good exit out of those S's. And we're going to come down into the fast corners, turning to the left-hand side around this Melbourne street circuit-ish. This is the sort of streety bit of the circuit. And we're coming through. Valtteri Bottas well within our sights. We've got our targets on and we look for a bomb, a dive bomb, not going to make it stick. And we realise that we can just keep a bit more pace going through these corners, putting the pressure on Valtteri. He didn't really like the pressure when he was at Mercedes. How does he like it with a Cal Racing car behind him? As now we make the move on the inside, we have a little slight look. Didn't quite make it stick, but surely we're close enough now for the last DRS zone coming down the start-finish straight as we go into the second to last corner, round the last corner, past the grandstand, into the start-finish straight. And now surely we're going to get the power down with the DRS open to make this move stick. Surely Valtteri Bottas can't hang on here. Have we got enough about us to do it? We dive to the inside. There's a bit of contact. It's a racing incident. Just get on with it and we get past Valtteri Bottas. Absolutely brilliant racing, that one. You could argue is a bit too aggressive on our part, but we make that stick. And with 2 laps to go, we are up into 6th place. Now, Carlos Sainz is far, far ahead of us. We're not going to make up 5 seconds in 2 laps. That would be ridiculous. But the Valtteri Bottas is over now, a second behind us. But there's a yellow flag, and we're getting a caution mention. Oh, and it's Yuki Tsunoda who's had a gearbox or an engine failure, and he is out of the Grand Prix. And the green flags come out to say that everyone can resume racing. No yellow flags on the track anymore. And we have put over a second behind us and Bottas. Into the final lap we go. All we need is a clean lap in this one, and we are done and dusted for 6th place, which I think would be a cracking finish. Again, just sitting behind, what is it? I think it's the 2 Red Bulls, 2 Ferraris, and 1 of the Mercedes in George Russell. I think that's a really good effort if we can hold on. I mean, let's be honest, Valtteri Bottas isn't going to give this up. He knows we've got a mistake in us. He knows we're a rookie driver, and there is a little bit of a slide, but we managed to somehow keep the pace going in the car, and we go through the S's again as we drop down to 4th, which is a bit of a mistake. It should have been staying in 5th. As we go into these corners, Bottas is still quite a distance behind us, but we nearly did slide off, and he's going to keep that pressure on as it's within a second now. Valtteri Bottas has brought it back. Can we hold on coming through these last, well, I say S-bends, they're not really S-bends, but we're coming through those corners for the last time in Australia, and we're going to see if we can hold on against Valtteri Bottas. He's got his DRS open. Is there going to be one last lunge? He gave it a little twitch to have a look, but couldn't make it work. And I think that means we're going to hold on. As long as we don't mess up these last 2 to 3 corners. As we come into the penultimate corner now, it's the slow left-hander. We take it really well. Probably the best we've taken it all race. Round the grandstand, across to the start-finish straight. And we are going to hold on and claim P6 in the Australian Grand Prix.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there. So let's review the driver's standings. Max Verstappen should be pleased with his performance, making gains at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Natalie Pinkham, come on, who do you pick?
Mick Schumacher gets my vote today.
Let's move on to the constructors. And pulling further ahead in the standings, it's Red Bull. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend for them as they fight their way towards the top. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
So a really good race all round. I think we still sit 4th in the constructors, which is great, and we're up to, well, we're just down to 6th. George Russell overtaking us, which is a little bit annoying, but we do get plenty of team acclaim. We're getting ever closer to that 10 rating, which is superb, because 10 gets you another sponsor on the car and a bit more money coming in. But yeah, all in all, a good race. I'm pretty happy with that, and a bit more money from Equinox as well for getting more than 1 point a race.
Your input here. It's not an easy choice, I know.
And here we go. We finally get to pick a rival. Who do we consider to be our rival? Now, obviously, we've had battles with George Russell. Esteban Ocon would be the easiest one to pick out of this lot. Fernando Alonso would be sort of the experienced driver, but I don't think you would come into F1 and immediately have a rivalry with Alonso. George Russell, it's got to be.
Thanks for dealing with that. The department appreciate it.
And there we go then. What a Grand Prix in Australia. Next up is the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Italy. But as you can see, our engines have taken a bit of a hit. So we are going to apply some new engine components. I think we may go for the second component on all components after practice of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. But it is the first Grand Prix with a sprint race, and so far we've done a 5th, a 6th and a 6th place finish, all very consistent, but we are flatlining a bit on our development. Let's see how we get on. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.